What if a few heartfelt words from your child could move millions of people to tears? Have you ever received a message so personal, so deeply touching, that the world around you seemed to pause for just a moment? That's exactly what happened when Lily-Rose Depp, yes, the daughter of legendary actor Johnny Depp, shared a birthday message that wasn't just sweet or sentimental. It was soul-stirring. It was simple. And it was real. Now, we live in a time where celebrity families often feel more like scripted dramas than real people. Every move is dissected. Every silence is speculated on. And in Johnny Depp's case, the past few years have been a whirlwind of headlines, accusations, courtroom footage, and tabloid chaos. Through it all, one person who remained almost entirely silent was Lily-Rose Depp. She never joined the fray. She didn't give interviews, she didn't tweet cryptic quotes, and she certainly didn't align herself with the narratives flying around. That silence led many fans to ask, where does she really stand? So when June 9th rolled around, Johnny's 62nd birthday, no one was expecting fireworks from Lily-Rose. But what she posted was more powerful than anything loud or flashy. It was a childhood photo. A quiet moment captured in time. In the picture, young Lily-Rose is wrapped around her father's neck, beaming. A small child holding tightly to the man she once saw as invincible. And alongside that photo, only 9 words, "Happy birthday to my forever hero. Love you endlessly." That's it. 9 words. No hashtags. No emojis. No attempt to explain or elaborate. And yet those words rippled across the internet like a wave. Within minutes, fans began commenting things like, "I didn't know I needed this." Or, "This just broke me in the best way possible." It struck a chord not just because of who said it, but because of everything that hadn't been said until now. Let's rewind for a moment. Johnny Depp's legal and personal battles have been a centerpiece of entertainment news for years now. The lawsuits. The allegations. The infamous court cases involving Amber Heard. Through it all, Johnny's image morphed in the public eye, from beloved icon, to fallen star, to a man fighting for his name. And where was Lily-Rose in all of it? Largely out of view. Her silence became a blank canvas on which people painted their own assumptions. Some fans accused her of being distant. Others defended her right to privacy. But one thing was clear, her voice was missing from the conversation. And that made this simple post all the more powerful. It wasn't timed to a press tour. It didn't come after a carefully curated interview. It wasn't sandwiched between brand endorsements. It came from her heart. It felt like it wasn't about optics, it was about connection. Thousands of fans shared their emotional responses. Some said it reminded them of their own estranged parents. Others saw in it a reflection of their healing journeys. One woman commented, "My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 5 years. This gives me hope." A young man shared, "My dad's my hero too." And we don't say it enough. The universality of it, the way it connected with so many different kinds of people, is part of what made it so striking. It also reignited discussions about father-daughter bonds, especially under the spotlight of fame. Johnny Depp has often spoken about his children being his anchor. Even in his most chaotic moments, he's always described Lily-Rose and Jack, his son, as his greatest source of meaning. He once said in an interview, "My kids, they're the only thing that's real in all of this madness." And while Jack tends to stay out of the spotlight, Lily-Rose, being an actress and model herself, has always been a bit more visible, though still very private. Interestingly, this moment also sheds light on something much larger than celebrity gossip. It shows how we, as a culture, interpret silence. So often, we equate a lack of public statement with disapproval. But that's not always the case. Dr. Helena Cruz, a media psychologist at UCLA, weighed in on the moment, saying, "In high-conflict situations, especially those played out in public, children often feel like they're forced to choose sides. The pressure is immense. Lily-Rose's silence wasn't a sign of betrayal. It was likely her way of protecting both herself and her father. She continued, when children of celebrities choose to stay quiet, it's often an act of self-preservation. But that doesn't mean they aren't processing, feeling, or loving from a distance. This post may seem small, but psychologically, it's a signal of safety and reconnection. There's also something deeply poetic about the image Lily-Rose chose. Childhood photos often evoke strong emotions, nostalgia, innocence, and a reminder of what relationships were like before things got complicated. That image wasn't just any picture, it was a window into a time when things were simpler. When she looked at her father and saw only love and safety. Sharing that photo now, after all that's happened, feels like a reclaiming of that memory. And it's made many reflect on their own family ties. Can you ever really repair a relationship that's been wounded by silence or misunderstanding? Can one message start the process? For some, the answer is yes. Not because words erase the past, but because they open the door to a different future. And this isn't the first time a celebrity child has used a small gesture to spark something larger. We've seen it before, Zelda Williams writing a letter about her father Robin, or Frances Bean Cobain posting a quiet photo of Kurt. These aren't grand statements, they're echoes. Echoes of a love that might have been strained, but never stopped existing. For Johnny Depp, this moment had to mean something profound. While he hasn't publicly responded. At least not yet, it's safe to say that seeing that post would have stirred something deep inside him. After years of public battles, being seen, not as a controversial figure, but simply as my forever hero, had to feel like a kind of redemption. Not from the world. But from the one person whose opinion probably mattered most. And it raises an interesting question, do public reconciliations help or hurt? On one hand, they can be healing not just for those involved, but for people watching. They remind us that it's okay to forgive, to reconnect, to say, I love you, even when things have been messy. On the other hand, critics argue that some things should remain private, that broadcasting them dilutes their sincerity. But in this case, sincerity is exactly what made it resonate. The internet doesn't often pause for anything. But on June 9th, it did. Just for a moment. For 9 words and an old photo. For a daughter reaching across time and pain to say, I see you. I love you. Happy birthday. So where do we go from here? Maybe nowhere. Maybe it's enough that Lily-Rose spoke from the heart. That small gesture might just live on its own, like a single note played at the end of a long, emotional song. But maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of something more. Sometimes, all it takes is one act of vulnerability to spark a quiet revolution. In a world where most people scroll past moments without feeling anything at all, that one post stopped people in their tracks. And that says something. It means we're still capable of feeling deeply, even when we've been numbed by so much noise. Lily-Rose's message wasn't some perfectly crafted PR move. It wasn't embedded in a carefully edited video with dramatic music or a trending TikTok format. It was just a photo, a frozen moment in time, and 9 words that felt like they came from a place of raw, unfiltered truth. And that's exactly why it struck such a chord. Because it felt honest. Real. Like it came from someone who had been carrying something quietly for a long time and finally let it out in the only way she knew how. Think about how many people in the world are waiting to say something they've buried. Maybe it's a father who hasn't heard from his daughter in years. Maybe it's a grown child who still holds onto a photo of a parent they haven't spoken to since the last argument. Maybe it's someone scrolling through old memories, debating whether reaching out is worth the pain it might bring. But sometimes, it only takes one example of reconnection to make people believe that it's possible. Lily-Rose may not have intended it, but her post became a symbol. Not just of forgiveness, but of courage. There's something profoundly human about wanting to feel seen. To know that after everything, you still matter to someone. And for parents, that feeling is magnified. When children grow up and begin to form their own lives, there's always a fear, spoken or unspoken, that the bond may fade. That all the years of raising, loving, and protecting might get lost in the shuffle of adulthood, distance, or disagreement. But what Lily-Rose's gesture reminded us is that love, real love, doesn't vanish. It may go quiet. It may shift in form. But it doesn't disappear. And that quiet can be terrifying. Imagine being on either end of that silence. A parent waiting for some sign that the relationship still exists. A child unsure if it's safe to say what they've been holding back. There's fear of rejection. Of not being heard. Of making things worse. That's why so many people hesitate. It's not because they don't care, it's because they care too much. But seeing someone else break that silence, especially in such a public and vulnerable way, can feel like permission. Permission to take the risk. To send that message. To say, I miss you. Or, I forgive you. Or even just, happy birthday. This kind of moment goes far beyond the celebrity world. It taps into something much deeper, our universal need for connection. We all carry wounds from the people we love. Parents hurt their kids. Kids hurt their parents. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. And yet, most of us still hold on to hope that the love underneath all the hurt is still there. That maybe, one day, it'll resurface. And maybe it starts with something as simple as a photo and 9 words. It also brings up the role of memory in healing. That photo Lily-Rose posted wasn't random. It was clearly chosen with care. It wasn't about the present, it was about the past. About remembering a time before things got complicated. Before lawyers, headlines, rumors, and betrayal. It was a reminder of a bond that existed long before the world had any say in their story. In choosing that particular image, she didn't just wish her father a happy birthday, she reminded him, and everyone else, of who they were to each other before the world tried to rewrite the narrative. That's the magic of nostalgia. It allows us to touch moments that feel pure. And sometimes, reaching back like that is the first step toward moving forward. It doesn't fix everything. But it opens the door to understanding, to empathy, and maybe even to forgiveness. People underestimate the power of small things. A birthday message. A photo. A few words. But when they're genuine, when they come from the heart, they can cut through years of silence and misunderstanding. And if you're watching this, and you've been holding on to something, maybe now's the time. Maybe this is your sign. Your moment to send a message. To reach out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to explain everything. Sometimes, all it takes is a gesture. A few honest words. And if you're on the receiving end, if someone reaches out to you, try to see it for what it is, an act of courage. Even if it's awkward. Even if it doesn't come with the apology you hoped for. Even if it's just a photo and a line. That could be the first step towards something better. Because love is often messy. Family is complicated. But healing begins when someone chooses connection over silence. That's what Lily-Rose did. And maybe, just maybe, her quiet post will echo far beyond the birthday it was meant to honor. Maybe it'll remind us all that even after everything, love has a way of finding its way back. Maybe, for some people, it starts right now. What do you think? Would you have posted something like that if you were in her shoes? Or would you have kept it private? I really want to know your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's get into it. Because this moment, this post, it's not just about the Depp family. It's about all of us. If this story touched something in you, you should definitely check out the other video we've done on this topic, why Johnny Depp's daughter refused to comment. Until now. It dives deeper into the timeline, the public perception, and how their relationship has evolved behind the scenes. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. And if you're still here, thank you. Seriously. We don't take your time or your trust lightly. If this video brought up some emotions, or even helped you see something in your own life a little differently, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and join our little community. We're not just here for the drama. We're here for the humanity behind the headlines. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say, is something you've waited years to say. Thanks for watching. And until next time, take care of yourselves, and each other.